Today seems election day. All right. The recession, the period of contraction, which was very severe, officially came to an end. There is a committee called the National Bureau of Economic Research, which officially designates the beginning and end dates of recessions. Ben Bernanke was a member of that committee before Bernanke became a policymaker, and they determined that this recession began in December 2007 and ended in June 2009. So it was a long recession. When they say the recession ended, what that means basically is that things are back to normal. It just means that the contraction has stopped and the economy is now growing again. So we have been growing now for almost 3 years, averaging about 2.5% a year. But as I described, we are still some distance from being back to normal. So when we say the economy is no longer in recession, we do not mean that things are great. We just mean that we are no longer actually contracting, we are growing, expanding. Figure 33 gives a picture of the sluggish economic recovery. The darker line in the graph shows the path of real GDP since 2007. The shaded area shows the period of the recession according to the National Bureau of Economic Research. You can see that it begins in December 2007 and real GDP begins to decline during that period. In mid 2009, the recession is officially over, and you can see that since then, the darker line has been moving up as the real economy has been expanding. But you can also see a comparison. Suppose that the economy had been recovering since mid 2009 at the average pace of previous recoveries in the post-war period. That average recovery is shown by the lighter line. You can see that this recovery has been slower than the average recovery in the post-World War II period. It is actually even worse than that in a way, because this was the most severe recession in the post-World War II period. And so you would expect that recovery might be a little quicker as the economy comes back to its normal level. But in fact, it has been actually slower in terms of growth than previous post-war recoveries. An implication of the sluggish recovery is only very slow improvement in the unemployment rate. In figure 34, you can see the unemployment rate rising sharply during the recession period, peaking at around 10%, and then slowly coming down to its current value of about 8.3%. That is still quite high. Figure 35 shows single-family housing starts. As I discussed, the housing starts collapsed even before the recession began. Of course, that was a trigger of the recession. And you see how very sharply construction declined. If you look at the most recent year or two, you see that there have been a few little wiggles, but the housing market has not come back. So this is one answer to the question, why has this recovery been more sluggish than normal? One reason certainly is the housing market. In a usual recovery, housing comes back. It is an important part of the recovery process. Construction workers get put back to work. Related industries, such as furniture and appliances, began to expand, and that is part of the recovery process. But in this case, we have not seen that. Why not? There are still a lot of structural factors in the housing market that are preventing a more robust recovery. On the supply side, we still have a very high excess supply of housing, a high vacancy rate. Figure 36 shows the percentage of housing units in the United States that are vacant, such as foreclosed homes or homes where the seller is unable to find a buyer. You can see that the vacancy rate peaked at more than 2.5% during the recession. It has come down some, but is still well above normal levels. There are a lot of homes on the market, and that produces excess supply and falling house prices. On the demand side, you might think that a lot of people would be buying houses these days because houses are really affordable. Prices are down a lot. Mortgages rates are low. And so if you are able to buy a house, you can get an awful a lot of house for your monthly payment now compared to a few years ago. But being able to take advantage of that affordability requires, among other things, that you get a mortgage. Figure 37 shows what is happening in the mortgage market. The bottom line shows the 10th percentile and the top line the 90th percentile of credit scores of people receiving mortgages. And you can see that before the crisis, people with relatively low credit scores were able to get mortgages. But since the crisis, you can see the whole bottom part of the shaded area has been cut away, implying that people with low credit scores, and 700 is not a terrible credit score, are unable to get mortgages. Seriously? So even though housing is very affordable, and monthly payments are affordable, a lot of people are unable to get mortgages. So with a lot of excess supply in the housing market and with a lot of people unable to get mortgage credit or afraid to get back to the housing market, house prices have been declining as shown in figure 38. Recently, we have seen some leveling off, but so far, not much evidence of an upturn. Declining house prices mean it is not profitable to build new houses, and so construction has been quite weak. And more broadly, when existing homeowners see their house prices decline, it may mean they cannot get home equity lines of credit or they just feel poor. And so that affects not just their housing behavior, but also their willingness and ability to buy other business services. So the declines in housing prices and to some extent also stock prices are part of the reason consumers have been cautious and less willing to spend. Very interesting. I didn't know that.